Well, welcome. I am so excited to bring this to you today. The Lipid Lowdown. I've been working on this presentation for about a month now. And the lipid panel is an interesting one because it's not just looking at your cholesterol and saying, oh my gosh, we have a cholesterol problem, go to statins. The lipid or the cholesterol panel, it's just one panel, but there's other panels that we have to look at to make sure that we get them all connected to find out kind of what's going on inside your body and why your lipid panel might be off. And it could be off temporarily. It could be progressively getting worse. There could be a genetic component, and then there could be infections and viruses and all sorts of other stuff. And we're going to cover all of that information. So why should you all, and it's not advancing, let's see here. Okay, why should you all be listening to me? Well, to tell you a little bit about my background, I've been in the business, actually it's about 25 plus years, working in health, wellness, and nutrition. I was kind of a sickly kid. I had bronchitis 15 times by the time I was 19 years of age. And I had some issues growing up. I actually have a resistance to antibiotics. I cannot take them. I get violently ill from them. And that happened twice in my early 20s. And that's what they told me. My gut got totally screwed up. And then in my middle 30s, as I was trying to start a family with my husband and have kids, I had 4 miscarriages. And one thing that, looking back to that then and looking at my labs and knowing what I know now, it's been quite fascinating to see that my lipid panels, my cholesterol, total cholesterol was in the like 132, one of them was 148, 164, very much on the lower side, and my vitamin D levels were very low. Well, what the heck does that have to do with pregnancy, right? So I was getting pregnant, no problem. I wasn't maintaining the pregnancy, and you need progesterone to maintain pregnancies. And you need cholesterol to make those hormones. Estrogen, progesterone, testosterone. And so this started my journey back in when I had bronchitis so many times and so many antibiotics that it really screwed up my microbiome, which can screw up your liver, which therefore my liver wasn't filtering the way that it should. So therefore it was hard to deal with getting enough cholesterol to help with the hormones and the vitamin D and so on and so forth. So I have 25 plus years experience somewhere in the health world. I was a fitness instructor in the gyms. I have different certifications, and I've been doing the functional blood work for the past close to 5 years now. So it's been a great addition to my practice. I have an office in Minnetonka. I also work virtually with people through Zoom or the phone. It's a great way of working with people, is to be able to evaluate their blood work through functional ranges. The medical ranges are very broad and the functional ranges are much more narrower. And that way we can find those hidden infections, deficiencies, and imbalances in our blood work so we can correct the underlying reasons on why something like cholesterol can be out of balance. There's always an underlying message, and we'll get to all of that here. So a little tidbit about cholesterol. And there's a lot of myths out there about cholesterol, a lot of information that may not be very accurate, or it's got a half truth to it. But did you know that cholesterol is mainly made in the liver? So many people think that, it comes from eggs or it comes from eating beef. Well, yes, you can get some of it from there, but your cholesterol is made from liver, or in the liver, when there's an insult to the body or inflammation that's being created. Did you know that triglycerides are produced predominantly from dietary carbohydrates, not from dietary fats? And in 2015, the National Advisory Board for the US stated that you don't have to worry about eating eggs, because how many times were we eating egg whites only, and you were throwing out the egg yolk? Because they said, well, the cholesterol's in the egg yolk. Well, we need to eat good, healthy cholesterol, and I'll explain more of that later. But they were saying that you don't have to worry about foods high in cholesterol because they don't impact your cholesterol numbers. which is an accurate statement, but that just came out 9 years ago. 9 years ago. It's kind of crazy. Some of you may have remembered back in the 70s, it was low fat, non-fat in the 70s, 80s. Low fat, non-fat was the way to go. Well, low fat, non-fat will make you fat is what we found out, because we are reducing the fat out of our body and we're replacing it with carbohydrates or starches or sugars, which create more weight gain and more cholesterol issues and blood sugar issues, etc., and inflammation. Okay. So more than half of the people who have heart attacks do not have high cholesterol. Well, if cholesterol is the issue, then why is that happening? And half the people with high cholesterol numbers have healthy hearts. Now that's even more fascinating to me. So what is the cause of cholesterol or cardiovascular events? We're going to break this down and get you those answers. So we're going to tell you a little bit more about what each one of those numbers are. So what is cholesterol? So cholesterol is very important to the body. It's needed for cellular membrane. Our cellular membrane on every single cell, so this is a cell, has a bilipid layer. So it's bi is 2, lipid is fat, membrane around every single cell. And if that membrane is compromised, then guess what? We are not going to have healthy cells. We're not going to have good being able to penetrate the cell or to get nutrients in or water in, or to get out of the cell to get toxicity out or water out. So a healthy cellular membrane is super important. Cholesterol provides structure and rigidity to the cells. It's a cell gatekeeper because we don't want to have bad things going in. It supports production of the sex hormones. So there's the hormones again. And with me having such a low cholesterol numbers when I was younger, caused me to have infertility issues. It assists in biomaking for digestion. Now, my son who just called, he is my biological son. I had a full term, 42 weeks and 1 day, very, very healthy baby. He was 9.5 pounds, 23 and a half inches long, huge kid. So I had a very, very healthy pregnancy. But going through that process, we had to figure out what was going on. And we increased a lot of things during that pregnancy to increase my cholesterol at that time. Okay, and cholesterol also supports the production of vitamin D. So vitamin D, as we all know, is super important for your immune system, for your energy system, for many different things in our body. Okay, so getting to know your LDL. LDL is one of the markers for cholesterol. It stands for low density lipoprotein. It's a type of fat that circulates in the blood and transports cholesterol to different parts of the body. So many people believe that the LDL is the bad cholesterol. I always thought of it as L equals lousy. But there's good and there's bad pieces of LDL, okay? Knowing the type provides more information. So if your LDL is elevated, taking a test like the NMR test or the particle density test will tell us, is your cholesterol fluffy like a cotton ball, or is it like a pellet, like a BB gun pellet, which is hard and dense? The hard and dense is the dangerous one because that can build up in your arteries. And then if it comes apart and then floats around, that's when cause heart attack or stroke type of thing. So to influence your LDL cholesterol, we want to avoid processed foods, refined oils, sugars, and reduce your carbohydrate load. Most people, if they really manage and look at what they're intaking on a daily basis, I think will be very surprised and scared of how much carbs that they are taking in on a daily basis. And one of the ways to know is to use an app that when you put in food, you input the food that you're eating and it will spit out how many carbs that you're taking in. But that is a huge exercise that tells a lot of eye-opening things about people's dietary habits. Okay, so your LDL cholesterol, the high density lipoprotein. The LDL helps remove cholesterol from the bloodstream. So it removes it from the bloodstream by transporting it to other parts of the body So back to the liver, where it is then removed from the body. Okay, so the LDL disperses it out, the HDL brings it back to the liver. So this is known as the good cholesterol. Higher levels are associated with a lower risk of heart disease. Okay, higher levels of HDL with lower risk of heart disease. It works to scavenge and clear the bad cholesterol from the body, and that's why it brings it back to the liver. The liver filters everything from hormones to sugars to fats to alcohols to congestion, and gets rid of it. So to influence your HDL cholesterol, we want to eat omega-3 fatty acids such as sardines, salmons, eggs. Take omega-3 supplementation. But I'm going to tell you, omega-3 supplementation, they are not all treated equally. A lot of omega supplementation is very bad oils. They're refined oils. So you want to make sure that you're working with a practitioner that only works with companies that sell only to practitioners to get a very high quality supplementation, because otherwise you're putting a rancid oil back into your system, and that causes more inflammation and more problems. So make sure you're getting a good omega-3 supplementation. Okay, so your triglycerides. Triglycerides are fat found in the blood, okay? So when we eat, and I always use this analogy of an elevator. You have an elevator and you can only put, let's say, 10 people in the elevator. And if you try to get the 11th person in, the door won't shut. So when you eat, your body needs insulin to take the food or the glucose and enter the cell, okay? It can only take so much at a time. So if we're eating too many carbs, too many calories, too much, our portions are too large, those excess calories convert to triglycerides, and they're stored in our fat for later use. So our body will create fat, surround those, and store it. And the triglycerides are known as the tattletale. The tattletale will tell us what your diet is like or what's going on. Okay, so higher levels of triglycerides are associated with heart disease and stroke. You want to get this under control. It can cause fatty liver disease, and it can cause fatty liver disease and you don't drink an ounce of alcohol. So fatty liver disease, a lot of it can be caused by alcohol, but can be caused a lot of times by high carbohydrate diets, refined oils, and high sugars, okay? But it can also be linked to other medical conditions such as diabetes, thyroid dysfunction, and kidney disease. So triglycerides, I always associate with high sugar diets, okay? The lower the number, the better. High triglycerides will reflect how much processed foods, sugar, and alcohol you are consuming. So this is where it gets the nickname, the tattletale, because it's telling us practitioners what you're consuming and what we need to do about it. So first and foremost is diet is super important. To influence your triglycerides, we need to eat real foods that God gave us, real quality proteins, healthy fats. Yes, I'm telling you to eat fat, but it's the difference in fat that is important. So the healthier fats like coconut oil, avocado oils, ghee, grass-fed butter, that type of thing. That's a seminar for another day. But we can influence our triglycerides when we really clean up our diet. Okay, so on your lab reports, you're going to get something similar to this. Every lab is a little bit different, but these are the optimal ranges. These are not medical ranges, and the medical and optimal ranges are pretty similar in this panel. But when we look at your cholesterol, we want it to fall into these ranges, okay? So these are all the optimal ranges. And the two numbers the two items on the bottom, the CRP and the homocysteine, those are inflammation markers. And I'll get to why we want those later on. But if we have high inflammation, we know that that's why your cholesterol's off. So cholesterol is really, bottom line, is inflammation. And I can't say that enough. Okay, so the next thing here is that we want to look for patterns within our cholesterol numbers. So I don't know if any of you brought your labs with you today, but when we look at some of these numbers with your numbers, we want to make sure that your triglycerides, your result, is half of your total cholesterol result. Okay. Your HDL should be half of your triglycerides. Now, we're basing this off of your results. And your LDL should be less than 100, less than 99, less than 100. If not, that could indicate that you might have an underlying autoimmune disease going on. And if you look at, there's many different types of autoimmune disease. Now, this is just one panel that it can show me this. The CBC with differential panel is another panel that I look at. We're not going to be talking about that tonight, but that can show me if there's some autoimmune diseases going on as well. So connecting the dots between panels on panels, I usually request about 9 different panels when I review someone's lab work. And I want to put them through the functional ranges because those are going to tell us those hidden infections, deficiencies, and imbalances. Different panels will give us different clues about different things. And that's why we want to bring this all together. So this is a pattern that we can see in our cholesterol panel or lipid panel. So here is another chart that just gives you dangerous, at risk, and heart healthy. So, obviously we want your total cholesterol under 200. However, if someone's at 220, I'm not stressing about it if their HDL cholesterol is 60 or higher. So some people have the genetics that their cholesterol is just a little bit higher. I've seen people where they have higher cholesterol and we have them go take a calcium score test and they have 0 blockage. And I've had one client that her doctor wanted her on a statin. Well, why would you need to be on a statin if you have 0 blockage? Her cholesterol was just genetically a little bit higher. So you got to read these numbers. Don't use them in absolutes because you want to be able to look at the other blood panels to kind of put it all together and work with someone that actually knows how to read them because there is variables to consider. Okay, so here are some other patterns. So triglycerides and the relationship with HDL and LDL cholesterol is a really important one to know. And this one can be a little confusing, but this was actually, this information is from a 10-year study of over 10,000 people. So it's a pretty good, accurate study. And there was another study that confirmed its findings. So this is why I really like it. But the serum triglycerides, so triglycerides above 150 plus HDL below 40 is a pattern indicating high risk for heart disease and stroke. Okay, so for example, let's say your total cholesterol was 200, but your triglycerides were 120, which is 60% of the total cholesterol, and your HDL was 40 or less. That is showing us, I mean, they're not terribly high, but your HDL is low and the percentages are there. We want to know particle size on this example here. Okay, so the ratio of the triglycerides with HDL being low and the triglycerides being high is an indicating pattern that we really want to look at. The good thing is that we can do something about it. So if your ranges are high or low, these are some of the things that it's going to indicate. So if your total cholesterol is high or low, you need more omega fats, good quality fats, the salmon, the mackerel, the tunas, the sardines, and omega-3 fish oils that are quality. Make sure you're working with a practitioner that is only using products from a practitioner-approved company. Your triglycerides, if they're high, we want them low. If they're high, you definitely are eating too many carbs, sugar, and alcohol, and you need to add in antioxidants. Antioxidants eat up free radicals that cause inflammation. Inflammation is really the biggest villain here, okay? Not the cholesterol. Cholesterol is a patching mechanism for inflammation's damage. So really important to have antioxidants along with lowering that carb, sugar, and alcohol. Carbs, sugar, and alcohol, and we always say sugar and grains equal pain. Sugar and grains are inflammatory. All of those things are too high when your triglycerides are too high. So your HDL, if it's low, we need to add more healthy omega fats. The VLDL I haven't really talked about, but that number isn't always used, or people aren't always getting that test done. But you want it below 30 for sure. And then again, it's kind of like in the triglyceride area. Your LDL, you want that below 99. So if it's high, lower those carbs, sugar, alcohol. Put in the chat if you're hearing me repeat myself. Put a Y in the chat. Yes. And what is it that I'm repeating? What am I trying to ingrain in us that is so important about our diet that we need to reduce? Can anybody share in the chat with me? Nobody? Come on. Okay, so as you can see, it's repeated here several times. We need to lower those carbs, lower that sugar, lower that alcohol, and up our antioxidants. Vegetables have a lot of great antioxidants, vitamin C's. We're going to talk more about that as well. And the CRP, high sensitivity, that is an inflammatory marker. And if it's high, again, reducing those carbs, adding in antioxidants. Okay, so you have an out of balance lipid panel. There's 3 areas that we got to check right away. Okay. The first one is inflammation. Where are your inflammation? If your lipid panel is really high and you don't have a SA or HS-CRP or a homocysteine test, and there's other inflammation markers we can get, it's just how nitty gritty do we want to go. We need to find the source of that inflammation. It may be an infection. So then we're going to want to look to the CBC panel. It may be foods. Then we want to look at the CBC panel or do a food testing panel. It could be parasites. We all have them. They're not just reserved for people who go to Mexico, but we all have parasites. They do get out of balance. I do help people detox from parasites. But again, we can see that in the CBC panel, as well as chemical toxicity, mold, or stress. So what is the outside inflammation that's coming, or influence? You know, are we having a stressful relationship, a stressful marriage, or finances, or a job that's not a good fit for us? There's all sorts of, or do we live in a moldy house? You know, that could be a stressful thing that's causing inflammation in our body. So those are things to look at. Okay, your thyroid could be another reason why it's throwing your lipid panel out of balance. And the first thing, again, the thyroid is not something that, oh, we have a thyroid out of balance. Well, we got to throw a medication at it. Nope, we want to back it up. We want to find the root cause of why the thyroid is not acting properly. Is it an infection? 9 times out of 10, the thyroid's acting inappropriately because it's got an infection. We want to look at the CBC panel. The gut and liver may be off. So then we want to look at the metabolic panel. And these are all lab tests that we are taking. Or there might be heavy metal going on, that you have a lot of heavy metal in the body and it's attacking the thyroid. So these are other additional tests that can be done. And the third area that throws off the lipid panel is that blood sugar. When we are eating high carbs, high sugar, high starchy vegetables, high starchy, too many fruits, processed foods are a big culprit. Those will throw off our blood sugar levels. And stress will raise our blood sugar levels. Going into menopause, our estrogen goes down, but our blood sugar goes up. So noticing that in a different chapter of our lives, we definitely have to move differently and use weight training and make sure our minerals are there to get those blood sugars where they need to be. So diet, exercise is going to be key here. So when lipid panel's out, we got to look at these 3 areas and really investigate what's going on with that individual. So high cholesterol, low HDLs, and high triglycerides trigger inflammation in the arteries. And when that inflammation is triggered, our body is going to create more cholesterol because it's a patching mechanism. And so without enough HDL and antioxidant, there is less clearance of cholesterol, which promotes inflammation. Hopefully you're understanding this. Now, this picture here, I probably should have put in a different order. This is showing inflammation in the body, if as a metaphor, okay? Wrinkles on our face, We have what's going on in the outside of our body is going on in the inside of our body. So the picture on the left with the gray seat, that's like a lot of inflammation, a lot of free radical damage. That chair had a lot of sugar and it damaged the material. But the picture, the orange tannish, it's smooth and subtle. That is a body that's getting enough vitamin C and antioxidants and not over consuming sugar. So let's go back here. So vitamin C plays a really big role in our collagen, and our collagen, helps keep our faces tighter and, our skin looking good. But vitamin C has shown that it may protect our arteries against damage. And we get damage when we eat sugar, refined oils, have high stress, have things like parasites or chemicals in our body. And some studies suggest that vitamin C can slow down the progression of atherosclerosis. I can never say that word. You know what I mean. And it inhibits the calcification process in the human vascular smooth muscle cells. Now, there's 2 different studies here that you can look up if you'd like, but vitamin C is crucial to the inside of our arteries to keep it looking smooth like that picture I just showed you. It's crucial to keep our skins from less wrinkles. Vitamin C and absorbing it, making sure our gut and liver are healthy so we can actually absorb it good. It is a water soluble, so you want to make sure you're taking it daily. Do you know that we're like the only mammals that do not produce our own vitamin C? All these other mammals in the world produce their own vitamin C and they don't have heart disease, which is pretty fascinating because we used to, but we have changed over time. So Dr. Ray, one of my mentors, he had his mother, and his mother was in her 40s and she had a heart attack. And they could show it on, all the tests that they did, that part of her heart was damaged. And they wanted her to go on all these medication. Well, her son was this doctor. He's a holistic functional doctor. He's one of my mentors. He teaches a lot of my classes. In fact, I get to see him on Thursday. And he put her on a huge vitamin C and antioxidant protocol. And she did this for years. And her cardiovascular doctor retired 10 years after she had her heart attack. He reran all these tests. And he's like, now, didn't you have a heart attack, 10 years ago? And she's like, yeah. And he goes, well, there's no evidence on your heart that you've had a heart attack. Now, that's pretty amazing that just by doing a functional protocol with high vitamin C, antioxidant, and a few other things, she was able to reverse the damage that took place from the heart attack that she had had 10 years prior. So I think that's just fascinating info. So 2 main factors that happen. When we have cardiovascular disease, we have structural damage to the integrity of our arteries. And that happens because we have high inflammation. The high inflammation happens because we are not eating what we should be eating. We may have other refined oils, or there might be a small genetic component, but genetics only play about 10% of the role. The other thing is, as we age, we produce less nitric oxide, and that will make our blood vessels brittle. So it erodes the arterial structure, and that is linked to diabetes. Well, diabetes is high sugar, okay? That's linked to hypertension, inflammation, Alzheimer's. They say that's like diabetes 3 for the brain. And this gas is formed combining nitrogen and oxygen, which is nitric oxide, and it occurs naturally both outside and inside of our body. But as we age, we produce less of it. So I always tell people, whatever wrinkles are happening on the outside of the body, that's happening on the inside. And if the body can't fill those cracks of the wrinkle, it will send more cholesterol to patch it so we don't have a hole in the artery. Does that make sense? Which can close the artery. So the cholesterol can build up. So if we don't take care of the inflammation going on in our body, then the cholesterol keeps going, and then we can have a blocked artery. Does that make sense? Give me a thumbs up if that makes sense. Okay. So the real culprit is inflammation and lack of vitamin C and antioxidants. So again, there's that picture to see the difference. Okay, so what are the solutions? I've been hammering them. You're probably going to hear this in your sleep tonight. We got to lower those sugars, carbs, alcohol. So carbohydrates are things that raise your blood sugar. That could be fruits. I'm not saying don't eat fruits, but I'm just saying you want to eat only 1 to 3 servings, and then depending on the fruit, because like a mango is going to have higher carbs than, let's say, a berry. But if you have a goal of 50 grams or less a day, that's net carbs. If you have high cholesterol, or you're looking to lose weight, or you have pain, or you have inflammation, do that for 90 days and you'll be amazed to see how you'll feel better and your results will be better. Removed all refined oils, soybean oil, corn oil, vegetables oils, etc. There's more of them out there. You really got to learn how to read labels. And that's one thing I teach my clients to do, is that I help them read labels. I help them with meal planning. I help them understand the food education pieces so they know what they're putting in their body and how to move things around so they can incorporate their lifestyle into a healthy diet. Supplementation is going to be key. If your lipid panel is off, we definitely want to support the liver. We need to support the gut and the liver. We need to increase vitamin C, collagen, antioxidants. We need to see if there's any infections going on in that CBC panel. So supplementation is going to be key. Diet's going to be number 1, and then supplementation with it. These are the things that you can do to avoid medication. Now, I'm not medically trained. I don't diagnose, cure anything. According to the FDA, I know nothing. But I know lots of my clients, when they follow this protocol, they have been able to get off of, reduce, or never get on medications to lower cholesterol. And we are able to lower their cholesterol, reduce their A1C and their blood sugar levels, and improve how they feel, less pain, and lose weight, because all of these things will do that. And then first and foremost, we got to eat real foods that God gave us. And protein is key, healthy quality protein, healthy fats, and lots of veggies and greens with antioxidants, and making sure that you're incorporating high levels of vitamin C. Okay, so the real villain, and I got to get you to understand, is cholesterol is just the repair mechanism. The real problem is the destruction of collagen, elastin from having inflammation in the body. So number 1 real answer to this whole high lipid or lipid panel out of balance, we have to reduce the inflammation. And we got to figure out what the inflammation is for you. It might be an outside, it might be an inside, it might be a combination. But the real solution is not necessarily medication. Now, there's a time and a place for medication, but many people, there's side effects to those. We can do this if we can work on this for 6 months. I'm telling you, I've had so many people improve by doing these types of things. So high dose vitamin C together with a protocol supporting antioxidant therapy, essential fats, lowering sugar intake, and lowering refined oils, and improving nitric oxide. And of course, that involves some daily exercises. Okay. I am happy to stick around and answer questions. But before I do that, I want to make sure that since you spent some time with me here on a Monday night after the work day, and luckily it was raining outside, so it was easier to stay inside and hang out. But I do a full functional 9-panel review. I can order the labs for you, or you can just give me the labs that you got from your doctor, and hopefully you'll have most of what I'm looking for. And we put them through the functional ranges. And when I put your lab results through the functional ranges, I can see those hidden infections, deficiencies, and imbalances. And I review your full lipid panel, your A1C and fasting glucose, your complete metabolic panel with liver enzymes and liver markers. I look at a full thyroid panel, a vitamin D panel, a CBC with differential, a full iron panel. And all of those information will give me a story. It's like puzzle pieces, and we put it all together and we can figure out what's going on inside your body to give you X symptoms and have these out of balance. And so I usually charge $297 for it. If you use this code, you can either scan the QR code here right on the screen, or you can put in the URL on the screen. You'll also get a follow-up email. But if you register and purchase that, you'll get it for $148, which is 50% off, which is a phenomenal deal. I have not given that discount in about a year. And I would be happy if you just have questions and you want to just schedule a time to talk to me one-on-one. I have a free discovery call that you can schedule that right here on the screen. That's in black, the inspiringhealthsolutions.com contact. That will get you to my calendar, and you can just schedule a call, talk to me, see if we're a good fit for each other. I can answer some questions and we can go from there. So those are my two gifts for you today. One is my time. The other is the discount on the 9-panel lab review and initial session. The initial session also does come with a nutrition response testing session, which actually will put together a game plan, a report of findings for you, and a game plan on what to do about your findings. So I won't leave you hanging. I won't just say, okay, this is what you have, but I'm going to actually share with you what you can do to improve upon them. So hopefully you'll take me up on those offers. It'd be my honor to work with you and help you accomplish your health goal. That is really my purpose and my mission. I love working with people one-on-one, and there's a few of you here on the call that I already work with. So thank you for being a part of my community. I love that. So what questions do you have? If you want to go off mute or put in the chat, I think there's a couple questions here in the chat. I will answer those for you. Okay, so someone asked, when you say sugar, are you talking about refined sugar versus fruit sugar? I'm talking about all sugar, all things that to convert to sugar. Because either we're burning glucose or we're burning ketones. Ketones are fat, and sugar is glucose. And so you're going to first be burning what is running around in your bloodstream. Then you're going to start tapping into the stored. So fruit, even, a potato will raise your blood sugar levels, even though that's a God-given food. And that is something that you can eat. But if you're going to eat like a potato, make sure you have a smaller portion and have it with fat. And if you have it with fat and protein, you're actually going to slow down the glucose load that your body gets, so it's not flooded with glucose. So the main things, though, refined processed sugar, things that are packaged, processed. If man altered it from what God gave us, run from it. Okay, so cookies, crackers, flours, cookies, breads, all of those things have some processing, and it's broken down, and those will raise our blood sugar levels dramatically. So those are things that we want to make sure that we're limiting in our diet. Eat meat, eat real fats like avocados, raw nuts and seeds, olives, coconut oils. Eat a plethora of vegetables, a variety of vegetables. Those are the things that we want. And a couple fruits a day, 2 servings is fine. They're God-given foods. What questions do you have? You can put it in the chat or unmute yourself. Anyone have any questions? Did I go too fast? You guys are a quiet bunch. I haven't had such a quiet bunch. Was I that good and thorough? No, you do not have to be in person, Shelley. I do it virtually or in person. It's nice to have, what do you call it? A Zoom for the initial session, so you can at least see the lab result, because I give you a full 4 to 5 page result and an explanation of what all your lab markers mean. So we go through that line by line on the ones that yours are off. Vitamin C sources, gosh, off the top of my head, Jennifer. Meat has vitamin C sources like beef. Broccoli has a lot of vitamin C. Obviously, citrus fruits. I believe kale and spinach are pretty good in vitamin C, but those are some good sources of vitamin C sources. And then obviously supplementation. I know that I supplement because, you know, am I able to eat everything that I should be eating every single day? Probably not. So I take about close to 3,000 milligrams a day of vitamin C. And I use a product from Biotics. That's something I can order for you and or show you the link to order for yourself. Can you reverse calcification of arteries by increasing vitamin C? I don't want to go on statins. Good question. Can you reverse? I think it depends, Peggy. I think that's a bigger question. I think it's yes and no, depending on the individual and, you know, is it calcification? What is it made up of? You know, sometimes you need that intervention depending on where you're finding it, and you might need a stent or something like that. And it's amazing what the medical world can do. But that question, I'm going to say maybe. But I know that the vitamin C will make your arteries stronger and lower your inflammation. So lowering the inflammation is going to at least stop the progress of adding more and more cholesterol all the time. But you want to do high dose up till bowel tolerance, because if you do a lot of vitamin C, you might have some loose stools. So if you get loose stools, then you just back off a little bit and then keep adding the vitamin C in. But again, you want the quality vitamin C, one that has antioxidants with it. And I can share with you that one. Yes, vitamin K is good, but then there are some medications that they say you can't be on vitamin K if you're on that certain medication. So that's something to be careful about. Okay, I had the particle density test years ago and mine were small, so I am assuming pellet size. I don't know. Were they the fluffy kind or the pellet one? I don't know. If they're small, were they small, hard, dense pellet? I'm not sure. You'd have to get clarification on the test that you took. Anyone else? Do you do the lab work or do I have to go to my clinic? I can order the labs for you, and then you would go to a local LabCorp wherever you live. I know in Minneapolis, there's 3 different locations you can choose from. I can order. I charge you my cost, which these 9 panels retail without insurance is $1,600. I only charge you $325 because that's my cost. So $325 is the cost for ordering all of these 9 panels. And then you would just pay for the lab review with me. I do it at cost because I think it's ridiculous how expensive it is to get labs. And then so many of the doctors, you pay for your insurance, but then they won't necessarily order the labs that you want. So I just charge it at my cost. And that's what I do. But anywhere, I have clients all over the country, and I just order their labs, and then they go into their local LabCorp, wherever that is for them. Yes, the recording will be directly sent to you if you registered. So if you're here, you're already on the list, and the recording will be directly sent to you. Can your particle size change? I believe it can. You know, I don't know that for sure, Peggy, if it can change or not. That's a good question. I don't know. I will have to do some further digging on that one. Any other questions? All right. Well, gosh, I so appreciate you guys spending this time with me tonight. It would be my honor to be able to support you and work with you. And I would be happy to help put all this together for you so you can put all the puzzle pieces together. And if you want to take me up on this functional lab review with all these panels, we can really see a full picture. And if we need to dig deeper, we'll dig deeper. But these 9 panels give us a really good look at what's going on inside your body. Just looking at one panel only tells us part of the story. So looking at all 9 gives us a really great idea. So I'd love for you to take me up on my offer. If you have questions and just want to talk one-on-one, again, just schedule your free call with me. It's a 20-minute or so call, and the link is right there on the screen. And you can scan the UR code to get to the discount page. But any last questions? It's my pleasure. Thank you for attending. I appreciate you guys being here. Have a lovely, lovely evening, and we will talk with you all soon. Have a good night.